For most people, picking up a Vince Flynn Mitch Rapp novel propels them to becoming a dedicated fan. For Ryan Steck, it led him to become a spy. The Real Book Spy, that is. Since 2015, The Real Book Spy has been a key stop for authors promoting their novels and a comprehensive source for readers to find out all the latest happenings in the thriller world. Whether he is conducting in-depth interviews, rating the latest releases, or breaking publishing news, Steck is in constant motion. His dedication to the genre has made fans throughout the industry. #1 New York Times best-selling author Kyle Mills calls The Real Book Spy the go-to site for all things thriller. And legendary New York Times best-selling author and ITW co-founder Gail Linz calls Steck one of today's finest book reviewers. Scores of publicists and authors have him on speed dial, as no book promotion can really begin until The Real Book Spy weighs in. Steck is also a freelance editor and a respected book doctor who works with new and established writers alike. And recently, The Real Book Spy took on a new mission. He is now writing his own novel. One thing is clear, Steck, Ryan Steck, has a license to thrill.
I'm Ryan Steck, The Real Book Spy, and you should be watching the crew reviews.
All right, we want to welcome Mr. Ryan Steck, The Real Book Spy, to the show. How are you, my man?
Here's Ryan.
Cheers.
Thanks for having me, guys. So, long-time listener, first-time caller here.
What? Love it.
Let's get right into it.
Let's do it.
When you started The Real Book Spy, had you considered the objectives of your time and effort in terms of the as a business idea, or was it just as a fan and having fun, or was it a conscious mix? So where did you envision this starting out your what's now truly a business?
Yeah, look, no, when I started out as a sports journalist, I didn't know anything. And I fell in love with thrillers. It's funny. I'm super dyslexic. I could barely read, which I probably shouldn't say publicly. Kind of my job to read books, but
that is your job. What are you talking about?
So look, I went to the doctor, and it was in adulthood they diagnosed me as dyslexic. Wow. So my doctor said, "You like to read? Just read more." And I actually kind of resigned from sports writing because I felt like I was relying too much on my copy editor. I was just really struggling. I lost my confidence. So I Googled dyslexic authors, and Vince Flynn popped up. So I as funny as it is, I started reading Vince, and I fell in love, and I really got into, thrillers, and I became such a big fan. I did some reviews for other outlets and whatnot, but, there was never like the place for thrillers. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I was a big fan of like ITW. I know you guys have been to Thriller Fest.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
The same people that, helped form that, like Gail Linz, there was a lot of authors that were like really, really vocal towards me. Like, hey, if you started this site, we'd get behind you. So Gail Linz and Ben Coase, Kyle Mills, Ted Bell. And I just was like, you know what? I don't think anyone would even care, but let's just give it a go. Yes, I always had a 5-year business plan because my wife made me. I got into this for fun, and she's like, "Oh no, this is gonna pay the bills. You don't have to
be serious, Ryan. Be serious."
Yeah. Well, at the time we had 5 kids. I think we had 5. We have 6 now. Wow. And she's like, "Nobody with 5 kids can have a hobby. So you got to make the money on this and put a plan together." And so we did. So I did. And you know what? I didn't think people would buy into it as much as they have. I've been really fortunate. That's the truth. It's been a lot of fun, and it's a lot of crazy hours, because for a long time I was reading a book a day, and then I realized I really don't need to cover the bad books. I can just cover the good ones, and I kind of scaled back. Yeah. But I still work full-time as an editor, so I work with a lot of writers, and so if I'm not editing, I'm reading and planning reviews and doing interviews like you guys are doing, and planning all this coverage. So yeah, there had to be a business plan, or my wife was just not going to be on board with that.
I think we married the same woman.
Yeah, listen, it doesn't matter. last year I made a big deal out of we cleared 2 million readers on the Books By, and I was thrilled. And my kids were like, "That's cool, Dad."
Whoa, say that again. Say that again. How many?
Number.
2 million. Yeah, so it was great. We were ahead of schedule. I was really proud of that, and no one in my family could possibly care any less about it. In fact, look, here's the gift they got me, because I said we cleared 2 million. This is like a big deal. So they got me, I'm kind of a big deal nameplate. That was
Kinda.
it. They're like, "Dad, you're not that important." My kids are
Nice.
my kids are relentless. And my wife is like, "That's great. What are we having for dinner?" That's pretty much, she could not care less. It doesn't matter who I'm friends with or I talk to or what news I break. My wife didn't acknowledge anything I do that was really cool until I think it was when I interviewed Janet Ivanovich, who's her favorite writer.
Yeah, huge.
All of a sudden, she was like, "Tell Janet hi." Give me a signed book. That was about as far as that way. She could not care less about, her whole thing is like, "Yeah, that's great. How profitable were we this month?" It's that type of thing.
Did we make any money?
She's supportive in her own way, but we have 6 kids, so
Definitely the brains.
For sure, yeah.
I have 4, so I know exactly what you mean.
Dude, seriously, a book a day, Ryan, that's a tremendous amount of thrillers each year. And so we all know that you love the genre, but do you ever feel overwhelmed by that volume of work?
Yeah. No, look, I scaled back. It dawned on me halfway in, I don't have to cover every book that comes out. I don't just cover the books I like. I definitely do cover the ones I like, right? For me, God, this sounds so cheesy in my head, but like the big thrill is when I find a book I think my followers will like. And then I'm really excited. I'm reading it and I'm like, "Oh, people are going to dig this. I think this is going to be a hit with Books By readers." I get excited about that. I don't really cover bad ones anymore. I sort of do this thing where I give books 50 pages to hook me, and if it doesn't, I kind of throw it aside. At 50 pages, if I'm not sure, I'll give it 50 more. At 100 pages, I'm committed. So if that book sucks, it's going to get a bad review. And I try to be a professional about it. We work in the most subjective business in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Listen,
That's true.
During the COVID shutdown stuff, right? My family decided we'd all read a book that someone else enjoys. So we drew straws. And then we had to keep drawing because none of the kids were allowed to read the Mitch Rapp book. So my wife got that one. But I got my wife. I had to read a Twilight book. And
no.
Yeah, it's bad. It's just so bad.
If you're into that stuff, that's great, but no.
Yeah.
And that's my whole point. So it's such a subjective business. If you would have sent me that book for review before anyone knew what it was, I would have just laughed. I would have said, "This is the worst book. We do not need the emo teenage vampire and all this stuff going on. It's horrible. It's never going to sell." Right? That would have totally been my response to that. And I don't know how many millions of copies it sold, but I've literally heard authors talk about independent bookstores that stayed in business because of Twilight.
Holy crap.
Jeez.
Yeah. So, I mean, it just goes to show, I don't think I know it all. I don't think I can predict every good book, but I try to keep my finger on the pulse of what Books By readers like and enjoy.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I think I like a lot of the books that,
Yeah.
my followers,
totally agree.
You guys too, right?
Yep,
I mean,
absolutely.
we all kind of like the same genre. That
So
makes
true.
it easier. There's a lot of books that, don't get me wrong, there's days it feels like work, I'm sure you guys get this. You put an arc up on Twitter and people are like, "Oh, it's not fair. You got it, but I don't." And I often think, yeah, but like, I have to sit here and read this whole thing right now. And then
now you have to read it.
Yeah.
And then there's ones that aren't work at all. Like this one over my shoulder, Brad Thor here. You guys got that now.
We got that
it's
one,
awesome. It's awesome.
I finished it yesterday. Amazing.
It shouldn't be work, honestly. I mean, this is that. I read the whole thing in like 5 hours and was blown away. Then I read it again over the weekend. That's how much I love it.
Well, you said something that kind of resonates with us about you get excited about a book and you want to share it with your readers. That's how we are with some interviews. Like we go into a lot of these interviews. Some of them we know the people and there's some familiarity. Then there are others that we're completely going into an unknown quantity, other than what we know what they wrote.
Yeah.
And man, we are constantly amazed, impressed, blown away. excited about the personality of the author that we meet and the wit and just the warmth. And we get really excited about, and that's my big thing about download this podcast, watch this interview. It's like, you gotta meet Mindy Mejia. She is freaking awesome.
She's excellent. Yeah, she's excellent.
He's awesome, and whoever it is.
Yeah.
So I think that resonates with us a lot about the excitement of what you've been exposed to and just want to share it with everyone.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, you had on Tom Colgan, who I have just the most respect and admiration for. He is great.
Yeah.
Same here.
You guys
Absolutely.
just with my buddy David Brown,
Yeah.
Mr. Mystery Bus, who's busted my chops on Twitter today, by the way. Which I said is a dangerous move because I come after you. So what are you thinking?
We're neutral.
Hear that, Bus?
We're neutral, David.
Mr. Atrium Mystery Bus. He was going to call back up with you guys to have a rebuttal episode.
Yeah.
Stop. You do not want to pick a fight with the guy who knows where the bodies are buried, David. You know this.
Yeah.
But, no. Seriously, here's what pisses me off about David Brown. I actually owe most of my career to him. And honestly, he's probably watching this right now. Like, you owe all of it to me. But no, he's. You can't say anything bad about the guy, and that annoys me.
Yeah, you really can't.
Best guy in publishing. He is. He's revolutionized the way I think people think of book publicity. That's the big thing.
Absolutely.
So before you guys did what you do, and like, I know every publicist, in the game, but do fans know any publicist that's not David?
No, not at all.
They
really don't.
About that. And I'll
That guy's hardworking, man.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
outside the
so good at
box.
what he does.
Yeah.
Brilliantly outside the box.
I know authors who I won't say names, but there was some Atrium Mystery Bus authors that did really well. And I heard other authors go, yeah, they sold well, but they got David Brown helping them out. Right? Like people want to write for Simon & Schuster, so they have David Brown pushing them with the Atrium Mystery Bus.
Sure, why not?
Heck yeah,
So it annoys me because he's such a good guy. No, there's no one I've ever met that like didn't like him or had a bad thing to say. David is great. He's just total gentleman.
He started this podcast. Yeah.
I gotta say, we owe the same thing. Whatever happens with this podcast going forward, we will always have to tip the hat to David.
See, that's so funny because me as well. So a lot of people don't know this, but the first ARC I ever got, and for anyone doesn't know what an ARC is, the advanced reader copy or galleys that we get for review.
Right.
He sent me. It was the first one I ever got was for The Survivor by Kyle Mills.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
It's a
it
good
was the first one I ever got.
Jeez, it ruined you right off the bat.
He did. I was hooked.
Well, his thing is, like, Ryan, if you succeed, his authors succeed. If we succeed, his authors succeed. So it's kind of like
He understands that better than anybody.
it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But
No, look,
but there's a genuine like wish for us to succeed.
Yeah, it's not fake.
So it's really kind of neat.
No,
So-
he's been so great to me too. I mean, a lot of the whole genre, I'm really blessed. Like you guys, people really embraced me from the beginning. I don't think you get to 2 million readers on your own for sure. I say, I've said a few times, like, I don't even know why people care at all what I think. And then my agent and, my wife is always like, stop saying that. Don't ever say it publicly. But it's true, I mean, it's a very subjective business. And I never wanted to come at this as like some literary snob. There's enough of those out there. I have to be Simon Cowell when I'm an editor. You know what I mean? Like, this sucks. This is not good. Got to fix this. As a critic, I just want to have fun. I want to be a fan first and then tell other fans about these books. That's always been my goal.
That's why the name of the show is the worst decision we ever made was the name of the show, The Crew Reviews, because we don't review anything. We interview authors and we interview authors that we like and respect and whose books we respect. So we're basically cheerleaders and also people who want other people to know what makes these people tick. We want to know what makes them tick.
Yeah. It's kind of a selfish thing.
You talked about the 50 pages and the 100 pages. So let me ask you, with the volume of reading that Chris mentioned and so many titles you've consumed, what qualities make a book stand out to the real book spy?
It's an interesting question. That's a good question. So I get asked, probably the number one question I get asked is what makes a book a thriller? That's tough to answer. You know what I've started saying lately? I think it was Justice Potter who said, I can't define pornography, but I know it when I see it.
Yeah.
That's sort of my philosophy with a thriller now. There's so many different genres and categories and subcategories. Can you have a crime thriller? Yes. Can you have an action thriller? Yeah. Can you have a political thriller that's got a lot of action? Yes. How do you classify that? So for me, I always look for something that draws you in right away. The pacing, I think, makes a book a thriller or not. When it's fast paced, I think you always look for something that, you know, that one sit read, up all night reading experience. You know, those are the books that I remember. You know, it's not even always like, gal, I think that was the smartest book I read or the best plot. That was the book that I couldn't put down. I think you guys have been there. You know that feeling when you have to work the next day and you're up reading a book and you think just one more chapter.
Yeah, you're
and
just
you do that 50 times and then it's like morning and you're like,
then 50 pages, 100 pages later, you're like,
yeah, let me take my sick day and just sleep in and think about this book that I just read. Yeah, those are the ones that, you know, I look for. Off the top of my head, you know, recently, I think Brad Thor does that better than anyone right now. I think he structures his chapters. It's not that, you know, James Patterson, like 2-page chapters. I don't love that. I get why he does it. I don't love it, you know, but Brad has really, I think, for my money, no one is nailing their transitions and segues from chapter to chapter better than him. Yeah. So I think too many writers struggle with like, well, there's no like really, how do you pull a reader from one page to the next? And if you say, well, use a cliffhanger. Okay, but they often think there's not a cliffhanger big enough here. And I always, you know, I disagree. I think when you want to break down a scene or break down a chapter, you got to look at it like, okay, so if I have a character A and he comes up after a rough day and he just wants to go to bed, he gets into bed, there's a knock, knock, knock on the door. He comes down, he opens the door and he says, I can't believe you'd show your face here right now. End chapter. So that's a pretty good cliffhanger, right? We all like, well, who's there and why are they there? So you're going to turn the page. But a lot of writers, I think, struggle with, well, I don't have that big payoff moment, right? Yeah, so they don't have anything that's like real grand, so they don't think they can do that. Where Brad Thor is really a genius is, and he hasn't done this is just an example, right? But instead of like this big like reveal, it's not like a terrorist who's there to kill Scott Harvath. It's like his best friend with a six-pack, right? Yeah. And you realize the whole thing was said in jest, and it's like, hey, shut up, let me come in, we're going to watch the game together. Well, look, you didn't do anything other than keep me awake for another chapter, right? That's what you just did there. Yeah. And he segues so smoothly that every time you think you're coming to an end of a chapter and you're like, I got to go to bed after this, you can't. You can't.
Yeah.
And I agree with him. For me, Mark Graney does that as well.
Mark does it great. Yeah.
The longest I've ever taken on a Mark Graney book was 2 days. And that was early when I first started reading him. And then I was just like, and I found out, so I read book like 4 or 5. And then I was like, oh, wait, let's see if he has any more books. Oh, no, he's got like 7 other or 6 other books at a time. So then I went back and just cranked through them. And it was same thing, same exact thing. It's like there was just not a good place. My wife was like, what time did you go to bed last night? And I was like, well, you know, whatever. And she's like, well, why? And I go, well, because it really wasn't a good time to set it down. And that's what I aspire to as a writer. You know, I want to make sure that there's not a time where they're just like, oh yeah, this is a good place.
Yeah. The crazy thing is though,
Rosenberg does that really good too. By the way,
Joel
Rosenberg.
I love his books, man.
Yeah,
that guy's awesome. The crazy, I always marvel at, you know, we're writers, but it takes a year to write the book, 5 hours to read it. Like that's.
Tom Clancy would tell people, don't read it in a day. It took me like a year to write.
Yeah, it's like a Thanksgiving meal.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
a year. Come on, like.
And Mark's got some big books. I'm a huge Mark Graney fan. You know, he's for me, he and Brad Taylor represent like that second wave. So when you want to look at, you know, the history of the thriller genre of sort of just our generation, right? You got to look, and when you were in the late 90s to early, you know, 2000s, you had Lee Child, Daniel Silva, Vince Flynn, Kyle Mills, Joel Rosenberg. They all started at the same time.
Yeah. And
they're all still going. I mean, Vince is no longer here, you know, but Kyle's still running with the Mitch Rapp franchise. And Daniel Silva, I would argue that guy's getting better with each book.
Which is scary.
Brad Thor started then. He's still going strong. And so then you look at the jump, you know, who's that next wave? And I think Mark Graney and Brad Taylor. The scary thing about Mark is this. As good as he is, I don't think we've seen his best book yet. You know, and I think whenever I think if I say any of those names, even you guys, you're fans too, right? So you can probably think that one book that stands out to you with that writer. You know, for me, if you say Vince Flynn, it's Consent to Kill. I think that's probably one of the greatest thrillers ever written. That and Transfer of Power, which you know that's good because Hollywood ripped it off twice.
Right.
So, so you knew that one was good. But those are the ones that, you know, you think of. And with Mark, they're just all really good. They're like all A pluses. And I don't think we have that one that like we'll remember him for yet. I don't. And that's crazy to me because he's so many books in to not sort of have that like career defining moment. I think it's coming.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's a good one.
Well, Ryan, when you read a galley or advanced copy, of course, let's not look at the book behind you, Near Dark, but when you're reading those, do you read for pleasure and then go back and then analyze it a second time through, or or is your time so precious now that you have to focus on analyzing it on the first pass?
No, I would say this. I know a book is special when I start out with all my notes and I realize I got to the end and I didn't take any.
That's cool.
That's when I know a book was special because I'm supposed to be reading this for a job. Right. And I totally didn't at all. I just blew through it as a fan. I did it almost twice with Near Dark. That's how good that one is.
Wow.
I would say this about that book, not to like overhype this one, but I really think this is the most excited I've ever been to push a book.
Jeez.
That one.
Wow.
I feel like if I could go back and be alive as the book spy to push, you know, I don't know, one of the early Le Carré books or Consent to Kill, right?
Yeah.
If I was doing this then, I think this is what that would feel like. I really think this is the most excited I've ever been. Brad, absolutely. And not only is it great, it's coming off of his best book to date of last year, you know, Backlash, which was phenomenal.
Backlash was
Phenomenal book.
Yeah, I want to go. Last year I said this is the best book he's ever written, and now I'm like, I just made this year really tough to wrap up my review because I can't say that again.
Can you say it again? Can you say the best book of the decade or something like that? I mean, that's
man.
It's pretty powerful.
Well, I gotta look. Hopefully, I wrote his best book to date because that leaves me a little wiggle room. But you know, I think that's rarefied air. When you're talking about authors that are just crushing it so much, I mean, it's not every year an author puts out a book where you go, hey, this is their best book for sure. Back-to-back years, you know what I mean?
Right.
Rare. So, I always know I don't have the time to sit and read for pleasure, with the exception of, and I got to be careful because if I don't say all the right names, people are going to call me after they see this. But definitely Kyle Mills. Every year, Kyle is the one book I want to read more than anyone. Because Mitch Rapp is my all-time favorite character.
Sure.
Right.
C.J. Box, Brad,
those are awesome.
Brad Thor, Brad Taylor, Mark Rainey, Joe Rosenberg, Greg Hurwitz, Ben Coase, all the other ones I'm forgetting who are going to hate me for this. But, you know, there's I'm so fast. I'm trying to remember. I'm looking at my bookshelf.
No one watches this show, so don't worry. It's fine.
I want a good showing, but I hope no one tunes in. Is like,
let me say,
texting me.
Ryan, let me save you from it. So there are numerous book reviewers out there in the thriller genre, just mystery, crime, thriller, whatever. Why do you think there's so many people have been they gravitate so strongly towards The Real Book Spy? Like, what do you do? What's your special sauce? Listen,
first of all, Chris, thank you for cutting me off so I couldn't finish naming all those authors we don't have time for.
It's called saving.
But, honestly, I don't know. I really honestly don't know. I try to be honest in everything, and I come at it from a fan's perspective. I think fans gravitate towards other fans. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I have fun with this, and I'm blessed to get to do what I do. I think, like, if there's any difference between, like, me and another, like, massive thriller fan, I just happen to be, like, a tad bit more plugged in. I just get, like, the inside stuff that they don't. That's it. And it's almost not fair. I have to pinch myself every morning. Yeah, there's times I really don't want to read a book. It's a hazardous job. I mean, not really, but my eyesight is like, oh my goodness. My eye doctor, my last appointment, he said, your eyes have aged like 5 years in the last year.
Yeah.
I'm coming home with like these thick, nerdy lenses now. My kids are making fun of me.
I know.
So you don't think of, little things like that. I truly am blessed, and I just like to have fun. I read before this was a job, you read in a time when either A, you're looking for something good to pick up, you're sitting on a beach, whatever. But there's also times you need an escape, right? And you're going through some stuff. And my oldest son had health issues before. And we had to have round the clock care. So I drew the night shift and I would read Vince's books to stay up all night, Wow. And so I think, I think we all look for that escape or a moment to have fun. Like right now, the world sucks. COVID is not fun. It's not. We're all stuck inside. We can't do anything. And you can't go places, right? But when you read a book, you go to all the locations and,
right.
The story.
Exactly.
I can tell you since I've been on lockdown, I've been to Russia and Wyoming and everywhere else, right? So I feel like I'm getting out plenty.
Did you read Jack Carr and CJ Box by chance?
Yeah, right. So I just think that's a big part of it. And I always want to come at it from that point. I really hate the snooty reviews where it's, they use the same adjectives twice and their word was too repetitive. Yeah, look, I see all that stuff too. But again, that's the Simon Cowell approach. And that works at times. And I don't know, man, maybe Simon's he's what makes American Idol and X Factor and all that. We all love that. He's hilarious with it, but he can't sing. That's my favorite part. That was dreadful. Totally awful. But he can't carry a note either. Right. That only for me goes so far, right? What I like to hear is that the people who know what they're talking about weigh in. And I think when they do that, they come in with it from hey, I really respect what you do. I'm a fan of that, right? Rather than just, I know everything and I know best. I don't like that. Yeah. And I don't. I've had people, not just readers, but a lot of authors argue with, the worst decision I ever made as the book spy was to put a rating scale on the end of my reviews.
Oh, man. That number gets you in so much trouble.
Believe it or not, there's at least 3 times I can think of off the top of my head where we tried to do away with it and readers picked up on it and they wanted to know. So I have to keep putting it, back in. I like you guys, we're all blessed to work in a great genre with all the, the writers, men, women, they're just great people.
Yeah. Fantastic.
But they bust my chops with that, off the top of my head, there was one time, Ben Coase, I gave him a 9.25 or something like that out of 10. And he called me within minutes of that review going live. And he was just busting my chops so hard. And he said, you think you're Einstein with, your 9.256734 out of 10. Listen, pal, and then he's like, I love you, buddy. It's a good review. Thanks for being honest, this and that. So they all bust my chops. He actually said, he got his revenge on me. He said, I'm going to put you in my next book. So if you guys read Trap the Devil, there is a character named Ryan who's based on me. But if you guys had Ben on, by the way,
not yet.
Okay, get him on. Yeah. Get him on, because he's the most sarcastic person in the world. He is Dewey Andreas, only not quite as big, Yeah. But Dewey, his sense of humor is Ben's. So he goes, look, bro, I put you in the book. You're a hero. Don't be weird about it. Still review it. Be honest and all that. And I said, yeah, of course. So I get the book. I get Trap the Devil. And right away I meet Ryan, the teenage terrorist from Michigan. And I texted him and I said, this is a joke, right? I'm undercover and I'm actually the hero. And he goes, totally, bro. Totally. Just keep reading. I'm dead 5 pages later. I'm for sure not undercover. I'm just straight a terrorist, a teenage terrorist from Michigan. And I said to him, dude, this is BS. Did you make me a teenage terrorist? He goes, no, I made you the leader of the teenage terrorists. This is some great honor. And so I don't know, I try to just have fun with it, never take it too seriously. But I also have this deep respect. You guys are all writers. It takes a year to sit down and bang out 100,000 words. Yeah. And as someone who edits a lot of, manuscripts, I know what writers go through. It's not easy. And I never want to come into this this book just sucked or, whatever. You always want to come at this and I don't know there's ever really a perfect book, but you want to point out the good and then maybe a few things that you didn't necessarily love, and just be honest. And if that's helped resonate with readers at all, then that was always my goal.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this all started with Mitch Rapp, as we've said, and since then you've covered hundreds and hundreds of books.
Yeah.
And since you're so caught in the present of the thriller genre, have you had a chance to go back and kind of read some of the iconic works of the past? And is there a particular author or book that you want to get to that you just haven't gotten around to?
It's a great question. No, I was a fan before, so I always have been a big reader. Honestly, I will tell you, so before I was the book spy, David Brown nicknamed me the Rapologist.
Right.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, so I'm sorry, David, but I also did the Vince Flynn encyclopedia updates and stuff like that for Simon & Schuster. And I would have to read a Mitch Rapp book, over and over and over again. I would try to read like one a week to stay current on all the info and take all these notes. And that served me well. But I hate to admit this, I haven't read a Mitch Rapp book in months. And that's weird to me. I usually, I even bought them on audiobook when I got really busy, and I just like throw one on when I'm working out or something. But COVID hit. No one's working out. We're just like at home. Like if I don't die from Corona,
Dude,
that's
I put
fine.
5 pounds on. Oh.
I'm for sure not going to finally get a 6-pack only to die of this virus. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I'll wait this out, then I'll start working out again. So what I miss is going back and reading old Mitch Rapp books. I've read them all a lot. But I do miss reading those. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned that the three of us are writers, but I want to turn this around because there's a little bit of information rolling around the industry that we're all aware of, that Mr. Ryan Steck is also an author. I know it's a little bit early. So what do you and what can you tell your audience about?
Almost nothing. No. So
I turned into a writer. I forgot.
I know, right? So without telling you the title of the character's name, what I can tell you is I was heavily influenced by my two all-time favorite writers, which is Vince Flynn and C.J. Box. And I set out to write something that was very Vince Flynn meets C.J. Box. And the whole thing takes place in the Midwest. Will tell you the genesis of the story, believe it or not. When I was in 9th grade, I created this character. So once it's out there and people hear the name and all that, he's actually been with me since 9th grade. And
so it's not a
what's his name?
Current.
Wait.
I don't think I'm supposed to say it yet. My agent's like, don't talk about anything. So I'm like, yeah, I for sure won't. But here we are.
So Midwest, go on.
Yes, right. So here's the deal. When I was in 9th grade, my English teacher, I had the laziest English teacher ever. And he had his intern do everything. And so he would like leave the room and just not even be there. And I remember my intern, she said, guys, we're going to do a creative writing story. You can write whatever you want. You can swear, you can have violence, you can do whatever you want, but it's due in 2 days. So I'm with my buddies who are like, at like 14 years old, 15 years old, they were just excited they could swear, in their writing. They were like, this is awesome. F this, F that. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. Like I've seen Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Like I want to do this right. I want the right swear words in the right spots, and I'm not going to overdo it. But, I was getting on myself all worked up, and I was, this is going to be fun. What I didn't know was we had to read each other's work anonymously within the class. Okay. Oh. And just go with me for a sec, because you'll see why this is a good story for this. I actually remember his name, Trenton Hearn. If by any chance you're watching this, I'm so sorry. In 9th grade, Trenton Hearn had to read my paper. And this was a first-person account to open before it went in to third person to really, talk about my character, who was this vigilante, right? This is the guy I created. So the book opened in first person saying, there's a murderer in the room, and by 2:30, you'll all be dead. And that was supposed to segue towards like, there was like a teacher who was, lost his mind and was going to hurt people, and this character saves them all. I actually have the paper. It's not well written. I didn't set the scene right. My transitions are bad, all this stuff, right? But it was good enough to get me a week off school. I got a call down to the principal's office.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
Suspended.
I get a call to the principal's office, and I'm coming down. This was not new to me. I've been down to the principal's office a lot, but the new thing was my parents were there and the superintendent was there. And I was like, I don't even know what I did this time for sure. I'm not sure what they caught. I got to play it cool. And when I came in, they were like, did you write this? And I was like, very proud of it. I was like, yes, I did. I must have won an award. But I said, yes,
Yes,
I
you
did.
did.
And I'm about to get heat praised on me for this. And they were like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm good. Now I'm feeling pretty good about my story. We were allowed to swear. Is there like an issue? I didn't even overdub. I was very careful. I picked those swear words carefully, all this stuff. And they were like so distraught. I got suspended for a week. And the cherry on top is my parents, they were awesome. They pretty much laughed it off and were like, listen, if you become a writer, this will be a great story. And I ended up finding that teacher. Her name is Shay Vanderstelt-Wentz on Facebook, and we're friends. And I reached out to her and I said, hey, listen, when we shop and sell this thing, will you do an interview with me about it? And she was like, absolutely. So
still got me suspended for a week. Thank you.
Exactly. So joke's on the school, man. I was not insane. And then we're going to shop this manuscript. It's going to be awesome. He got me a week off, and hopefully, there'll be a nice little payday out of it too. So it's all good. It all worked out.
So the main character's name was what?
Yeah, I know, right?
He's trying. Got good name for effort.
I do.
I'm actually thinking in real time, how mad would my agent be if I said it?
Well, how about you say it and maybe we'll edit it out?
It's Vince Floyd.
There'll be some lip reader out there. I know what he said.
Look, here's the deal. I kind of don't care. So I will tell you.
Okay.
His name is Matthew Red. And let me tell you why that was important to me. I'm the biggest Mitch Rapp fan in the world, so I knew people were going to go like Mitch Rapp, Matt Red, and see a similarity. But just before you think that, just wait till you see my 9th grade English paper that got me suspended. I've been reading Matthew Red longer than I've been reading Mitch Rapp. Believe me.
You have to put that on your website now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Throw it up there.
Coming up.
Yeah.
So Ryan, you got the physical copy Near Dark behind you, but we all read ebooks, we do the audiobooks. What is your first choice?
Well, definitely. So the physical copy for sure, because it's less eye strain. I didn't mind ebooks and stuff. I prefer to feel, the book in my hands and all that. Honestly, when people are like, when you're done with that, could you send it to me? You don't want it. I write in them. I mark them all up. I'm highlighting and taking notes and this and that. I'm pretty sure it would just annoy you if all these people on Twitter that are like, when you're done, send it my way. So I prefer that now, just because, my eyes are so shot. So I work about 100 hours a week between editing and book spy stuff, and I'm always looking at a screen.
Yeah.
So my eye, I've chronic, dry eye, and on my desk, I look like such a nerd when people walk in. I got all these different eye drops. Here's one, and all this stuff sitting around. So the ebooks, right now it's killing me because, no one's sending out like physical copies anymore. Publishers are all working, from home, like the people,
Yeah.
So we're getting digital copies again. And I'm like cross-eyed every night staring at my iPad, trying to make sense of it. A good narrator, I really, if I love a book, I buy it on Audible. So when I review something, if I love it, I always buy it on Audible. And I probably have only listened to like 10% of those books. I'm always like, I'll get around to it. And in hindsight, I should have answered this question when you asked me what books I'd like to get around to. Audiobooks, yeah. I think David Chandler is a great narrator for CJ Box.
Yeah.
George Goodell is awesome in all the Mitch Rapp stuff, There's some really talented narrators out there. Scott Brick is a really good one. So I definitely prefer that. The problem is where the production schedule is at. I usually get a bound manuscript or a galley or an arc. So depending on where we're at in the production of that, the audiobook's usually not recorded till later, right? So that's not even an option. So I read the physical copy and I just mark that sucker right on up.
Speaking of audio, guys, Ray Porter.
Yeah,
That
Ray
guy
Porter
Oh,
is
he's so
awesome.
good.
I love
Yeah,
Ray
he does the
Porter's
Don
stuff.
Winslow stuff. I think, didn't he do Jack Cars?
He does Jack
Yeah.
Carr. I mean, that guy's voice is so cool.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, David Brown once told me, by the way, thanks, David. He told me that I had a face. What did he tell me? A face
Face for radio.
Face for radio.
face for radio, and a voice for print.
Yep.
So I'll
about
never
right.
be a narrator. But yeah, that's.
We're
he's
gonna have a
always
celebrity
building me up.
fight, between the two of you for charity. We'll have to get that boxing match going at the
Ooh,
next
that would be fun.
Summerfest. Wouldn't it be awesome?
I
do
I
it.
would never hit him. He's the publicist for the Mitch Rapp books, Scott Harbath books. So I'd fold.
But no,
I'd
body
fold.
shots. Give him
You
body
guys could
shots.
play Rock'em Sock'em Robots. And
Oh yeah, there you go.
Definitely, we're on, David, for sure. And he's watching because he's a big fan too.
Mm.
Uh-huh.
well, I think since Titus Welliver's done the Michael Connolly stuff, it's really improved the Bosch books. Having the guy that we all now think of as Bosch as the narrator.
Right.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Because actually, I should have thought he's my favorite. I buy every one that he does. Did you see he just went back and did the first Bosch book?
Yes,
They just
yeah,
re-recorded.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
bought
the
it.
answer to my question. 20 minutes late. What's the one book I want to go back to? That one. The audio book. I've read the first Connolly book. I love Michael Connolly. I love Bosch.
Yeah.
I think
We love
he's,
Titus Welliver too.
Yeah. Titus
Oh
does an
man,
amazing
he's
job.
so good.
Such a great
He's
actor.
so good. Yeah, he's so great. And it's Bosch reading Bosch, man. It's so good. So yeah, when I have a little bit of time, I'm definitely going to go back and listen to that book. Yeah.
I grew up reading a lot of Cold War thrillers. I'm 50 years old now. I'm the middle child in this group.
What?
Vince Flynn ushered in a kind of an era of Islamic extremism, and then Lee Child kind of brought back the Western archetype of the lone stranger in town who kind of gets involved in the local dispute. And then others such as Nick Petrie and Greg Hurwitz and Mark Graney have kind of done a variation on that theme. Mark's kind of combined in a way. Combine the two.
Yeah.
What's the next iteration in the genre?
It's a good question. I don't think we have the answer to that yet. I will tell you right now, I know of several authors who are working on sort of like pandemic-like storylines before COVID became a thing, and every single one of them was like, oh, I can't sell that now. I think a few weeks into COVID, people, I honestly was hearing within the genre, there was, different publishers that were really open to pandemic books. Then this went on for months, and no one wants to read. I mean, the very last thing I want to read is a pandemic book when we're finally allowed to like go out and see people again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. There was another pivot a while back. Remember for like 3 years, every single thriller in the genre was about ISIS, and
Right.
it got tired fast.
Yeah.
And then we came back to Russia.
Yeah,
Right.
there's a pivot back
and
to
we're-
Russia. Yeah.
And we're still there. That's
Right.
kind of where the genre's at right now. It is very rare that you don't pick up a thriller today, an action thriller or something, and it doesn't feature ISIS or Russia.
Right.
So listen, if I knew for sure what came next, I'd be writing it. I'd get ahead of the curve for sure.
That
I'm
was a
gonna,
loaded,
I'm gonna go with China.
that was a loaded question because we were all ready to write down what you said so we could get
Yes.
started on
Yeah,
the
well,
next.
listen, I think Chris is onto it. I think China for sure. I definitely think we're going to see more books of that. We've seen some of it. Mark had a book that dealt with that a little bit. David Poyer's been there for years. Ted Bell's written in a few books about China. So
Hey, Dragonfire
we've
takes
seen
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dragonfire, his new one. Yeah. He has one, I think it was Warriors that deals with China too. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the next thing is, but I know for sure there's a lot of authors out there trying to figure that out.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah.
Well, regarding COVID, so aside from like books that are about an outbreak, how do you think it's going to play into like the background of books? Like, do you think authors are going to pretend that it didn't happen in the background, or do you think it's going to be kind of like, the background of story, like, oh, COVID happened in the past and such?
Listen, true story. I will tell you, getting on my phone, I can tell you how many calls I've gotten about that today. So
Jeez.
3. Yeah, 3 for sure.
And
3
so who are
different
those
writers.
from? Who are those?
Yeah, they love that. They would absolutely. Well, look, a big part of what I do is all my author friends will call and say, "Hey, is anyone doing this? Is anyone doing that?" And what cracks me up is when they call and they're like, "I got the best idea ever. No one's thought of this." And I got to tell you, there was an author recently who called and they're a buddy of mine. They pitched something and they were like, "And then I'm going to do this and this." No one's ever done this. And they're like, "What do you think?" And I said that it was really awesome when Brad Thor did that in Takedown.
I was gonna say Brad Thor.
It's been done. But yeah, look, I got 3 calls just today. It's something that writers are trying to figure out. Do I touch on COVID? Do we put it in the story? And I'm certainly not the only person they're asking, I'm sure this is like a big conversation topic.
Right.
I think Brad Thor did an interview recently where they asked him about that. And he said, yeah, I don't know. Do I put that in there, or are people so sick of it, they don't want to talk about it anymore?
Right.
I think it's going to be a mix of the two, obviously.
Yeah, I think so too.
A year from now, what are people really going to feel? I mean, you really can't.
Don't know.
Kind of guess it. Really not.
But yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we do know, man. I mean, I can only speak for me, just like with you guys. We're all sick of this. I think we all understand, the risks and all that, and we respect it. That's why, we've been inside. But this has been rough. I have no desire to read about it. I have 6 kids. We've been stuck inside with 6 kids. It's rough, and we're probably the only family that's going to come out of this fatter than we started. When this hit, my dear sweet wife, she went to the store, and we weren't trying to hoard. She was going to get like 4 loaves of bread because we have a big family, and the stores were all like, you can only buy 1 loaf of bread. And for us, if all my kids have a sandwich for lunch, it's like the whole loaf.
Right.
So what we found the loophole, there was no like limit on freezer items. So we bought a 12-foot freezer and filled it with all the stuff your doctor says don't eat. So frozen pizzas and toaster strudels, which by the way, toaster strudel came out with like 3 new flavors right before COVID hit. We need to investigate them a little bit.
They knew.
Yeah. They knew, man. They got the cinnamon roll one, the donut one. I'm pretty sure that donut one is like 3 to 5 pounds of extra me in this video right now. It's been rough, man. I mean, we're all stuck inside and doing this, and I have zero desire to read a book about COVID after this. Like, I don't want to, and I think most people won't want to.
Yeah. We've asked a lot of past guests this question, and since you have a reviewer standpoint in all of this, what are some of the key changes that you've noticed in publishing since you started The Real Book Spy?
I think, yes, that's a good question. So we talked earlier about how Brad Thor nails transitions. I can tell you just in my time as a critic, we've seen a real change in structure. Mm-hmm. So where people used to have these longer chapters, it actually cracks me up. So because I said Brad Thor is doing it better than anyone, if you go back and pick up his first book, Lions of Lucerne, right, he's got pretty long chapters. They're longer than they are now. Yeah. But what we're seeing is the shift towards, I will say this because I don't think any publisher or author would be honest about it, but I think it has a lot to do with microwave America. We're talking about a younger generation that can't go 4 seconds without checking Twitter.
Yeah.
And so I think.
Wait, hold on. I gotta check Twitter.
He's checking Twitter.
Exactly. Which I just got tweet. By the way, someone just tweeted. And it was David Brown too, by the way, who just tweeted. So it's like, yeah, we deal with this thing where I think holding a reader's attention is harder than it's ever been because there's so many distractions. Yeah. I don't think you can take readers for granted anymore. Right. There's like a million shows on Netflix I'd love to go watch. And you can just sit down and binge them, right? And reading is like that one activity where you have to kind of be all in. You got to actually like paying attention and reading it. My wife loves to like crochet, and she's always doing crafts. So she's always watching like these ridiculous, like Supernatural and all that bull crap on Netflix and stuff.
Hey, I like Supernatural.
She's really into it, and I
love Supernatural.
Listen, it's probably great. I don't know, but it's my wife's like all into it, and like. I don't really watch much TV. I don't have the time. Right. And I think so the big shift that I've noticed, not just from, working as a consultant or an editor or whatever, but also as a critic, when you're looking at these books, the chapters are shorter, and how writers go about pulling you through that is very different. I don't think most writers sit down and go, well, they're going to read this no matter what. I think authors sort of sit down now and they think, I've got to motivate a reader to stay invested. And I've got to really pull them through this book.
Right.
And that's definitely a big change.
I noticed his Brad Thor's sentences are even shorter than like Lions of Lucerne. Like they're like boom, 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 boom. Here it is.
Yeah, I mean, he should be doing a master class on how to structure a thriller. I mean, he really should. He's definitely the best that I can think of right now, and it's not that close. You know, he really does a phenomenal job he makes the reading experience so enjoyable, but it's effortless. You know, you guys are reading the new one, you don't sit down and think like, well, let me just finish this chapter or whatever. No, you're so engrossed into that you don't want the chapters to end, but then they do. And then you're going again, you know?
Yep.
And that's a thriller's like a roller coaster, you know, you're building up. And
that's why he's at the top of the,
Yep.
Absolutely. You
top
know,
of the genre, man.
And then, you know, I would say this, I would say more and more writers are trying to have a bigger payoff. So if you think of a thriller like a roller coaster, no one is like, that roller coaster was awesome, we just went up forever. Well, the part you remember is when it drops down, right?
Yeah.
And so I think more and more you're seeing a lot of writers take that mindset of, let me build this thing up and then just drop the floor out. And so you're seeing bigger, bolder, you know, storylines. Like, I don't want to spoil anything, but like Greg Hurwitz had a really big one a couple years ago that was like really out there. That involved the president of the United States and stuff like that. Like, I feel like more and more writers are just going for it. And I think that's awesome.
I think your point about attention spans is true as well. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons Patterson did that. Patterson came from advertising.
Yeah.
He had 30 seconds to get your attention, you know, and
absolutely.
And I think that it started back then, but I'm sure other people did it as well. But I do see that trend of, you know, you can't count on somebody sitting on the couch for an hour.
Look, no. I'm not knocking Patterson. He makes like $98 million a year. He's doing something right, you know? And the thing is, too, it is brilliant. You know, I saw a study a while back that said the people who read daily, they set aside, they block out time before bed. That's when they typically read. And if it's 60 minutes or 90 minutes, you know, you got to look in terms of that. So if you have longer chapters, and you're reading a book and, you know, your significant other's reading a book and they roll over and they go, wow, I just read for an hour and I read 2 chapters, right? They're like, this book's taking forever. If you're reading a Patterson book, you're like, I read for an hour and I read, you know, 34 chapters.
Right. You feel like you're getting somewhere.
You feel like you're moving faster and you're not. That's the brilliance behind it. That's where Patterson, you know, really figured something out.
Yeah.
You feel like you're moving faster than you are and you're not.
And you're invested now, so you're going to finish.
My analogy to that is kind of like you could sit in traffic for the same amount of time, or you can take the back roads and take you the same amount of time to get there, but it feels like you're moving, so it's more enjoyable. And
that's a good one. You know, I always use the one with writers when they're writing the first draft. You guys all know the first draft's never good. And a lot of writers are really hard on themselves. You know, they're like, oh, my first draft sucks. And I'm like, well, you know, first draft.
My second draft sucks too.
Well, so that's a problem, but let's back it up, right? So I always say that first draft is like going somewhere that you've never been using GPS, right? So you're not looking at anything. You're like, wait, what'd she say? Turn left here. Is this the right road? You know, and you're just trying to get to your destination. Go from point A to point B. Now, once you've done that and you know the route, you don't need the GPS anymore, right? So your first draft is just getting there. The second draft is very much like, I've done this drive and now I'm going to, you know, actually like enjoy it. And you're seeing things you never saw before, right? Like, oh, wow, look, you can see the mountains, you know, over there off in the distance. And that's really beautiful. And there's snow capped this time of year. Wow, I didn't realize that. You know, there's all these things you start picking up on. And that's what you want in the second draft, right? Is to really fill those things out. You've been there. Now you know the journey.
Yeah.
Now take in your surroundings and try to add them in a little bit.
Right.
You have you wear 2 hats, but did your editorial service, did that come after you began reviews as a natural extension?
No,
or were they
it was
separate?
first,
Like, you know, how does that come about?
Yeah, I don't talk about it a lot because I never want there to seem like a conflict of interest. So I'm really careful about who I work with and stuff like that. But no, I was actually editing before the Book Spy or anything like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
There it is, folks.
We got the ins and outs.
Yeah, and I could tell you for sure, I enjoy being a Book Spy better, definitely.
Who was the first author
that I worked with?
Yeah.
I don't think I'm allowed to say.
Is it someone big?
No, for the first one, no, for sure not. No, I've never talked publicly about it. No, I'm pretty sure the first one never got published. Which makes me sound great. I knew just what I was doing. It was their fault. They didn't listen. No, I've worked with everyone from debuts to New York Times bestsellers. Yeah, but no, I never really talk about who. A, I don't think they would like that, and then B, I never want someone to think, I would show favoritism towards that book.
Yeah, I hear
Makes sense.
As the Book Spy, right?
Right.
Yeah. Staying with the editing discussion, you're a huge fan of certain kinds of books. How do you separate your preference for certain types of stories and just strengthening the author's view of their own story when you're doing the editing? How do you kind of diverge those two paths?
Yeah, look, I mean, you have to, I think an editor's job is to always help the writer fulfill their vision. The problem is when you're a writer, you cannot edit your own stuff. Your brain will always read it the way you intended to say it.
Yeah,
right?
whether you did or not. Yep.
So you need a good editor. I can tell you from personal experience, like, if you're writing, you want to get a freelance editor. I was for sure not going to hire a competitor of mine. My agent was an editor. And so that's invaluable to me.
Right.
But no, for me, I sort of remove myself from the equation. There's things that look, there's good and not good. That's a different conversation. You can look at that. And in my experience, there's really two types of manuscripts that you get. Three, but the third one I would just say no to. You get one where the story's pretty tight and the writing's not good. And those suck because you have to, almost teach someone how to write, structure, that's not fun at all. Then you have someone who's like a very gifted writer and the story's just not quite there and they're not seeing it, because they're too close. And a lot of times, I think a writer is I think they're afraid to, kill their darlings. That's always the thing.
Sure.
You got to get them to loosen up a little bit. And of course I say that if my agent, if John's watching this, you're the biggest hypocrite ever, Ryan. Because he'll do that, just cut this line. I'm like, cut that line. The line's perfect. What are you talking about? And he's like, just it's one line, and I'm like,
but it was good.
John. Yeah, I know. But it's my best line. And then the very next one, like, that's my other best line. We're not cutting that one either. No, so you got to take yourself out of it. I never look at it as like, what would I do necessarily? But I think being a critic makes me a better editor. I think being an editor makes me a better critic.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I do try to style my edit towards what I know is selling right now.
Yeah.
There's a big part of that,
Well, speaking of critiques.
Yeah.
Let's hear it. What was the worst review that you had to deliver to somebody?
Look, I don't know the worst one is, but I could tell you a funny story, and I pray to God he's not watching this.
Nobody's watching. Don't worry about it.
We're all going to tag him now to make sure on Twitter. Look, on the same week that someone was like, you never write bad reviews, I was so pissed off because I was like going through this horrible experience. Eric Van Lustbader, who, Eric, I love you. You're great. And his Jason Bourne books are great. But he did a different book that was not a Jason Bourne book. And I got cocky in my review.
Oh boy, here we go.
He had a secret program in the book called Red Rover, or maybe it was Red Dover. I can't remember. But it wasn't a Jason Bourne book, and it was not his best. And I wrote in the review, Red Rover, send Jason Bourne on over because this book sucks. And,
God.
his publisher canceled cancel the promo we had in a giveaway like that. I mean, it was just so fast that was done. They never sent me another Eric Van Lustbader book. I still covered his Bourne stuff. I felt bad. And I'm not sure if either A, he doesn't know that, or B, if he forgave me. But if you do know it now, Eric, just remember I love your stuff now, and the Bourne books are great. But
it was late. It was late at night. You were cranky.
When he retired from the Bourne stuff, you know, he chose to call me and tell me I got to break that news, and that was good. So I felt redeemed from that.
There you go.
But that one was rough because in that same week, someone was like, "You never do bad reviews. You're just a fanboy." And I'm like, "Well, listen, bad reviews do not help anyone. Honestly, they don't help the reader, but they really don't help the author. They don't help me. They don't help the publisher.
Yeah.
Anyone.
The industry.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm covering the books that I think are worth your time. That's the bottom line. And you certainly, there's a lot of other, you know, outlets out there to look for, you know, books and stuff, but I'm going to put my time and energy into the ones I think you're going to like, rather than tell you all the ones to avoid. To me, that'd be like going to a restaurant and saying, look, I would like a turkey club sandwich with, you know, turkey and tomatoes and lettuce. And the waitress goes, no. Just tell me what you don't want on it.
Yeah.
There's like a lot I don't want on it. You know, for example, anything other than turkey and lettuce and pickles, right? I don't, for sure. Like, so that's how I think of it. You know, I don't want to sit there and tell you all the ones that aren't good. I want to tell you the ones that are.
Right.
And that's my philosophy. So no, there's a big part of me that wishes I wouldn't have said Red Rover, send Jason Bourne on over, but
such a good line.
It is a great line.
That line should stay in, John.
Yeah, they did not laugh when they read that.
Oh, I can imagine.
It was not good for me. But you know what? It is what it is. You know, it was not his best book. And most of these writers are really good sports about it. I will tell you, there was one guy in particular, I won't name him because I don't want to embarrass him. He phoned in a book. And when I did the review, I really said part of it was phoned in. And man, was he mad at me. And then like 6 months later, he called me and apologized and said, you were right. I kind of phoned that one in.
Oh.
So I think if you just call it like it is. But yeah, I try to shy away from the bad reviews because it's a waste of time, you know?
Yeah, right. Agreed.
I mean, if you guys only had on authors that sucked and then we're like, by the way, great interview, don't read their stuff. Right? What's the point?
Time,
you know?
But, you know,
the only people
our first motto was the hosts suck, but the authors are great. And, you know,
that's still
it
true.
didn't test well. It didn't test well.
No. The focus group was way off. It was no good.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just, you know, perspective. I think business-wise, it makes more sense to cover the books that are good that people want to buy.
Yeah, for sure. You survived the main portion of the interview. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I was a little nervous.
Now.
You get more nervous.
Now you need to take all your medication now.
Do it.
And we are getting into what's called the lightning round. And
I'm familiar with it.
As you know, very little thought was put into it. So please give very little thought to your answers. And since I'm the host today, I'm going to be up first here.
Do it.
Number one, what is Ryan's secret combination of drugs consumed to run the Real Books By and manage 6 children?
Because I want some.
I drink so much coffee, my doctor begged me to cut back. That's probably it.
Good.
Sounds like a problem.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
start.
Kidneys.
All right. Number 2, and this is a setup. So here's my setup. Melissa and the kids take a trip to Disney World for a week, leaving you an entire 7 days to focus on catching up on your reading and your work.
It's like heaven.
Minutes after your departure, Ted Bell calls you from his yacht sailing in Monaco and demands that you head to the airport to catch the private jet he sent you and meet him for the next 5 days. My question is, what method will your wife employ to kill you?
I'm pretty sure she'd poison me, for sure. Yeah, pretty sure. Which, I know this is a lightning round, but just let me hit pause on this because when COVID struck,
Yep.
Ted Bell called me and he was talking about how he should, you know, we should get a charter going and go down to the Caribbean or something. And I said, Ted, if I leave a wife who's working full time at the hospital and 6 kids, I'm not going to be able to come home. So like if I leave her right now with all of this in the middle of a pandemic, I'm going to have to live with you, pal.
I'm your housemate, brother.
Yeah, for long term.
Boy.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm not going to want to come back home to that one. So,
all right, so
I'm pretty sure my wife would poison me. Yeah.
all right, so get the pharmacopoeia out, and you are drinking yourself poison. All right, number 3. Well, we've done this before, Ryan. You've angered a certain high-profile author.
Yeah.
And their next book includes a drug-addled, cross-dressing male prostitute named Ryan Steck. You've read the arc, and the manuscript is really good, but this particular character is genuinely not working for the storyline. What is your honest review going to say?
The whole book sucked, but there's one character with great personality who was just captured incorrectly on the page. Definitely that would be my angle.
And that's why you're the real.
Everything else was true.
That's why he's the real book.
The author didn't understand his own character.
He didn't get it. He didn't get it at all. Bad character development. He should have been. His personality was for the hero. He had a new protagonist lined up.
And he carried the book.
Total tough guy, badass, and he just missed the mark. But everything else was there with the character.
Makes sense.
In a dress.
Yeah. Well, hey, look. He messed that up.
Whatever it takes. All right, I'm out.
My first question is book related.
Mm-hmm.
What book of the past or present, what book does writer Ryan Steck wish he would have come up with? Just pick one book that you wish you'd written.
Transfer of Power by Vince Flynn.
Good answer.
Yeah,
and it makes sense for the rapologist to
add it up there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, people ask me all the time, what was Vince's best book? It was either that one or Consent to Kill. They're equally my favorite, you know.
Gosh, I have to throw American Assassin in there. I'm just like,
that's in the top 3 or 4 for me.
Yeah.
But I'm with you.
I mean, they're sort of all tied for first place with me, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah, exactly.
That was the one that I think Vince kicked the doors off the genre with that one, you know?
Right.
Okay. My second answer, or my second question, my second answer.
If you want to answer it too, that's great, man.
Answer,
question
let's turn this around. Lightning round. You got to answer.
Father of 6. Is your wife a nurse?
No, she works in the lab now.
Okay. I'm a father of 4 and my wife's a nurse. So I know how hard it is to balance family and work. So what I want you to do is name your 6 children by their middle name, oldest to youngest, and tell me their birthdays.
Pass. Here's the thing. So embarrassing.
Their names.
Listen,
their first names.
Here's the thing. Whenever I have to take a kid to the doctors, it's the worst experience ever. Because, you know, you guys take your kids to the doctors, they call you back by the kid's name, right? Yeah. And then they go, what's their birthday? And I'm always looking at my kids like, honey, answer, you know?
You're too.
And they're looking at me. And when my kid won't answer, they look at me, and I always am like, just hold on a sec. That really is my kid. Just let me cycle through. I got to do this. And so, so
like I do
middle
have 6
name,
of them.
oldest to youngest. So Jamie Ann, February 2nd, James Anthony, March 13th, Alan, May 13th. No, I'm sorry.
Maybe.
I messed up. They won't. I'm not going to let them watch this.
Let's go back.
Doesn't matter.
We'll go back. We're back on 2.
Could be. No. James Anthony was March 23rd. Okay. And then Alan, March 13th. And then James Alexander, March 23rd. Or May 23rd. And then Jamie Ann again. My daughters both had the same middle names. And then little Mitch was born 10/11. That's, thank God I can remember that. It was easy. It was either going to be 10/10 or 10/11. Delivery was long, but I was like, I'm cool with either. They're both easy to remember. So 10/11. And my youngest son, named after Mitch Rapp, is Mitchell Ryan. Actually, Mitchell Ryan Scott, after Scott Harbath, 1T.
I think that's
Mitchell
too many
Ryan
kids,
Scott.
by the way. I think you named too many kids.
Because he's only claiming 6 on his tax return.
That's all right. Close enough. It's close
I
enough.
could have.
Too many than not enough, because then nobody's left out.
But this was brutal. My kids are for sure. We're gonna timestamp this, and I can say you can watch Daddy up until this point.
This interview just cut off.
My last question is actually one I'm genuinely curious about. Tell me about the creation of the name, The Real Book Spy.
Okay, so my first business partner, we talked about just the Book Spy. And believe it or not, he ripped me off, and he went to trademark everything under his name and steal it. So you know what I did is I, like a gentleman, flipped them off privately, and then I went and stole the trademarks for The Real Book Spy, and decided that if you were going to be the Book Spy, I was going to be the real one because it was all my idea. So F you, buddy, and that was that.
Love it.
Yeah. That's the truth behind the story. Yeah,
Love
it really
it.
is.
Love it.
Yeah.
I can't wait
Where's
till
the
next
Book
year
Spy now?
when I debut my show, The Real Crew Reviews. I can't.
Exactly. It's coming, guys. It's coming. I just got to find 3 more hosts.
Brutal. Mitch Rapp, Scott Harvath, Joe Pickett.
Yeah.
Brought together as a team to help save the U.S. president who has been kidnapped. What would be each man's responsibility during the mission?
Scott Harvath and Joe Pickett would just get Mitch Rapp whatever he needs. No, listen, I love, again, so I hope Brad Thor doesn't watch because he knows I love him. But and my son's second middle name is Scott. And I love Scott Harvath, and he's such a badass. But come on, guys, this is Mitch Rapp. You know, I mean, he doesn't need 2 other guys. They're probably going to answer his phones and get his food order. And if he comes down with coronavirus or the flu, Harvath could totally run this show himself. Yeah. Joe Pickett would be the last guy you want there because he's a terrible shot, his handgun. Imagine a scenario where you got to take a shot close to the president. You don't want that with Joe Pickett. So the first 2 guys, and if there was ever a crossover, like if I had like 3 wishes from a genie, I'm looking pretty hard at 6-pack and unlimited money, and then I'm probably putting Mitch Rapp and Scott Harvath together in a book. So I really love those characters.
There you go.
But come on, guys, Mitch Rapp, he doesn't need help.
That's why it was so cool that they interview each other for Thriller Fest.
Which, by the way, I saw. It's so good. Yeah.
Oh, I can.
So I know it's lightning round. I keep hitting pause on it, but I did CJ Box, Ted Bell, and my buddy Mike Madden for Thriller Fest this year. So if people are watching, you should get it. Even you don't have to like want to be a writer, just a fan. They're putting Brad Thor and Kyle Mills together. This is the closest we've gotten to Mitch Rapp and Scott Harvath being together. So
right. Which is totally worth it.
Other than my youngest son, because I did it first. I wanted to live in a world where, you know, Kyle Mills just would not make a new character named Ryan Steck and make him be BFS with Mitch Rapp. And so I did it myself. I was like, screw everyone. I'll have
He's never getting a 10 on his
name Ryan. So I got a Mitchell Ryan, and that's what I call him. You know, I always, my wife only calls him that when he did something wrong, but I call him Mitchell Ryan all the time to keep the 2 names together. So.
Hey, if you had the power of invisibility, what's going to be the first thing you do?
For sure, going to Kyle Mills' house and reading the new one over his shoulder.
Total power.
Yeah, for sure.
Right out.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely would.
And staying on the theme of Mitch Rapp, what's your most cherished Vince Flynn memorabilia?
Ooh.
Yeah, look, I brought a show and tell because I hadn't seen anyone do that yet. I'm always asked all the time, you must get a lot of signed books or this or that. And I've never talked about it publicly. So I thought I would just, not the rarest or whatever, like the ones that are most meaningful to me. But before I show you those, so, a lot of people, I think they think I'm just a crazy fan to name my son Mitchell. But I had full support of the Flynn family. And not only that, when I was having a hard time talking my wife into it, which like any good husband, I just wore her down, like a creek through stone. It's going to happen eventually. I just wore it. I had 9 months, guys. Come on. So, I was relentless. And, but when the Flynn said, hey, you got to name him Mitch, I'm like, babe, they just said, like, this came from the Flynn family, got to name him Mitch. What I didn't expect was we got a birth gift. So this is the MacBook Pro that Vince wrote his first few books on.
What?
Oh my gosh!
Can you believe
Yes.
it?
No way.
And I got a little letter from the family.
Holy cow.
But yeah, so I actually keep this in a bank vault. I got this out for this interview.
Dude,
I haven't showed anyone.
What a meaningful gift. That
No.
is.
wow.
So
That's
David
For sure.
Brown,
Like,
the
all
guy
joking
with
aside, I would owe a lot to Vince, and he sparked my love for, the genre and all that. And it was, I was pretty blown away when we got that. But I mean, first I didn't know what it was. I opened, I was like, what's this old MacBook? And then there was a note and I realized what it was. And that's pretty priceless,
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. It's like the holy grail for Mitch Rat fans.
Yeah. Well, that's where he
Yeah.
spent the majority of his time, right? I mean, on that machine.
Yeah, so I was told that he wrote his first 4 books on it, and which you go back, that's term limits, that's transfer power.
Wow.
You know what I mean? That's the third option. Those are some of his best.
Wow.
You
That's
know?
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad I asked that question.
Yeah,
it's a good
absolutely.
one, right? I mean, so I don't keep it around the house, just in case. We're a family that's had 1 house fire, so I keep nothing meaningful.
Oh,
One's
Yeah,
too
we have
many.
6 kids, and
yeah.
all my boys like sticking stuff in outlets. So we're head on a
What
swivel.
boy doesn't?
Yeah.
So,
You survived the entire show,
Oh my
the lightning
gosh.
round, the main event. This is to Ryan Steck, who's done as much as anyone for the genre of thriller writing. And to anyone out there watching the show, please follow Ryan. He will tell you exactly which books you should be spending your time on and reading. So to you, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on the show.
hey,
Really
thanks for
honored.
letting me come on, guys.
You
Thanks,
bet.
brother.
It's been wonderful.
We could have made it a 4-hour show.
Absolutely.
Then we'd have to call it the Joe Rogan show. So
All right.
The real book spy.
The real book spy, everybody.
There he is.
Cheers to you.
Thank you.
We want to thank Mr. Ryan Steck, the real book spy, for coming on the Crew Review show today and his enlightenment on the art of book reviews, which we don't do, even though we're called Book Crew Reviews.
No.
So anyway, we want to thank him for coming on, and please check out his website where you'll see all of his recommendations. They are top-notch, and we will definitely vouch for that. In the meantime, we want to vouch the second part of the show, which is bringing up a drink or 3. Toasting out to the man himself, Ryan Steck. Gentlemen, good show as always.
To Ryan, great show, guys.
Cheers, gentlemen.